Won't you fall and let me in? La 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 la. La 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 dee, said the fair young lady. Hello. I'm excellent. There's a young man here doing a film of me right now. Yeah. I had forgotten this, sort of half forgotten. I was real busy. His first name is Sam, his last name is unpronounceable because he's Polish, and Polish people don't believe in vowels. They have all consonants. Well, I know you're interested in the whole issue of how artists survive. Everyone has his own story. As for those who face their death by wind and call it by the weird name of forgiveness, they alone have the right to marry birds. And those who stop themselves from falling down by holding the wall up or the sink in place, they can go without much shame, for they have lived enough, and they can go click, click if they want to. They can go talk, talk, and they can marry anything, even hummingbirds. Well, everybody writes a poem when he's 14 or 15 or 12, and I guess I wrote some poems. I remember one poem I wrote when I was about 14, living in Pittsburgh in a tiny little apartment. I remember it was Mother's Day. And I woke up very early and got some real nice paper and wrote a poem for my mother. And put it very beautifully written in my terrible handwriting, put it in an envelope and gave it to her for my gift for Mother's Day. And my father, she started to cry, not out of delight, but out of disappointment. And my father said to me, "Couldn't you have gotten her a gift, kid?" That was the response. But the poem was actually good. I remember the first couple of lines. It went something like this. On Mother's Day and Father's Day, it is the custom now to harbor deeds of reverence that rival the kowtow. Now that's called sprung rhythm.
New Hope's not really like a big, it's not like a normal community. It's a weird place to grow up. But I met Aaron in 8th grade, I guess, in the high school. I had a typing class in 8th grade with Aaron. He bought a new TDK cassette tape, and we took it into the typing class, and we put the J card, the insert card from the cassette into the typewriter, and we typed Ween on the spine, and then we typed out like 10 song titles on it. And then after school that day, we went home to my house, and we worked from the titles backwards. We came up with the titles, but there was no songs. And at that point, I had like a part of a drum set, and I had a guitar that I didn't know how to tune. We just made this noisy tape, and that was how Ween was started. Yeah, it was a word. It was a word that we made up, that we used a lot, and it was basically a combination of the word wuss and penis. It was like Ween, but it somehow described, it was like this juvenile sound that we made. It was like the perfect name for the band, because at that time anyway, the music was really, it was designed to be obnoxious, you know. It was like, we were just trying to do something that was weird, you know.
They're all for sale here, every one. Name a price. Who are you voting for? Kane?
Yeah.
I think it was probably when I realized there weren't any paintings in the home I grew up in. And I started drawing first. And I was in grade school and going to a Catholic grade school. And I had this little sketchbook that I used to draw cartoon characters. And at one point, the nun discovered that I had the sketchbook. And instead of punishment, she announced to the class that I was the artist. So, it wasn't like I really made a choice. It was as if someone had made the choice for me. I think it was a paint by number, and that didn't convince me that I was a painter. It was a seascape with a boat, but that was the first time, the first painting I think I ever did.
There are about 6 or 7 poems in this book about shoes. I don't know why. I'm a shoe maniac. I used to be a shoe salesman when I was young. And I worked in Burt's and Beck's and Baker's and all those ladies' shoe stores. But it wasn't until I was about 19 or so, I was a sophomore in college, that I had a little book, and which I bought, and I wrote little poems in that book. And like a year or two later, I realized that it was kind of weird and queer to be a poet, and so I kept it secret after that for a while, because I didn't realize there was an extravagant and sort of odd thing to do, particularly in the world I grew up in. There were no artists. And, there was no TV where you had, or movies where you had paradigms or prototypes or models of what an artist is. There were no artists. You went to work in the morning.
There weren't any examples of people who were painting and really making money at it. It was a different situation from, I think, colleges now. I mean, most of the instructors there didn't really have careers outside of the school. They basically depended on that money to support their living expenses. So you never really got a sense of that you can make a living by making these paintings, because most of them didn't.
Neither of us were brought up to believe we were going to go to college. We didn't come from college families, you know. We were going to work, you know, and we didn't like that either. So we moved into an apartment together. And when we did that, it became 24/7 Ween. We would record, you know, we'd write and record 2 or 3 songs a day in the apartment. We were poor, the place was filthy, and we were doing a lot of gigs at that point. We were taking gigs anywhere we could get them.
you don't start off by selling a poem. It's not like selling shoes or selling apples.
I was making this this box on museum time, and I got caught by the curator, and she said, "Oh, what? Well, how much do you want for it?" And I thought, "Well, how much is my rent?" And my rent was $200 at the time, so I said, $200, and that was it. I sold it.
Until my son was born, actually, for like all through my 20s and 30s, I measured my wealth by if I could go to the ATM machine and we want steak for dinner and we can buy steak, then I'm wealthy. You know, I measured my quality of life directly by food because that was it. It was all I did, you know.
I go around and I give readings. Why do I give readings? Because I get a little bit of money for it. Because I like to be up there. I enjoy giving readings. I sell my books that way. I confront my own poems that way. The song goes like this. Dites-moi en quel pays s'enflora la belle romane Hippolyte Netaï.
And I thought, it was an epiphany to me. I thought, if I paint till I'm 55, I already had like 20 paintings, I'll have hundreds of paintings, and what would I ever do with them? I mean, I've had people come and visit me and who did have 9-to-5 jobs, and when they saw I lived, said, I could never do this, I would never get out of bed.
Because it's your hobby and it's also your career, and what I have to do to sustain Ween on the level that I'm comfortable with, it looks like farting around, a lot of it. It's like I get together with dudes in farmhouses on a Tuesday night in December and jam, you know, or you know, it's something. It's the same thing I did when I was 18, you know. So where are the lines? You know, it's very blurry. It's like what's work and what is folly, you know.
But I finally reached a point where I was able to do it and to finagle my way around that I had some free time. For the whole issue for an artist is free time. He buys time. Essentially, that's what an artist does. He buys space and time. The way these things happen, you know, it's a mystery how butterflies meet other butterflies and worms meet other worms. Artists meet other artists. They find each other by radar, by smell. They hear them in the woods. They hear an echo. I don't know. But after a while, I found a couple of other people who were doing the same thing I was doing, and they were, and you sort of a thing you'd sort of know almost intuitively. So you learn what color scarf to wear, what kind of, whether to wear a hat or not, whether to smoke or not, what kind of movies you should go to, whether you should write at middle of the night or early in the morning, and all that other bullshit. Whether you should be thin or fat, whether you should have contempt for movies of the 40s or like movies of the 40s. And then after a while, it takes a long time to develop your own personal inclinations and prejudices and likes and dislikes. That's called becoming a person. And he had a pet fawn called My Dear. And I don't know how deer was spelled, actually. And this is a poem about My Dear. I remember My Dear. walked around the kitchen, you know, like a woman on high heels. And then it went outside once and got killed like that. This I learned from Angela. A fawn's ass has to be clean or he won't shit. And if there is no mother to lick him, you have to use toilet paper, lovingly. This way you become his mother. You get to name him and you get to find him on Johnson Road, a 74 Mercury heating up beside him, the owner in tears, and you, the mother, consoling him as you both drag the body into the woods, which keeps you calm, although your hands are shaking and you are breathing hard from pushing the one remaining leg into the ground without disturbing the bloated stomach or the nose that wants to stick out of the leaves. Nor do you lower the shovel and flatten the ground, for you have babied the universe, and you walk with fear or care. You walk with care and wipe your face with dirt and kiss the murderer. You know, these things, you don't know why you do things. We have to trust the mystery of it.
I didn't know that we were going to do it for a career, but we were more dedicated to it. I think we had the level of dedication to it where it was going to happen that way because we weren't going to be stopped. We were righteous and we were young and naive.
And I just made a commitment to it. I thought, that it was probably going to be something I did for the rest of my life.
We just thought that maybe like-minded people would maybe find their way to it the way we found our way to bands that we liked, That's really... I'd be making it up if I said anything, said anything else.
There are three forms of death. It is death to be the enemy of a poet. It is death to be the wife of a poet. It is death to be a poet. Now, if you understand that, you understand where we're at.
It starts with those bells, and it's just so creepy because it's spiny and pointy and ting, 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 ting. And there was these hillbillies out there, and he was treating some kids with spinal meningitis, and the hillbillies called it Smiling Mighty Jesus.
Well, take an artist like Andy Warhol.
And the shit is happening in the East Coast, you know, in New Jersey, New York, you know. That's the real shit. Philly, you know. You go ahead, you fucking hip